Reb Zalman Moshe Hayitzchoki, the known and famous Chasid, who was a sheikhet in Nevel, and he was also considered by some their Mashpia, in the sense that his fiery attitude towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, towards God Almighty, with his devotion to Chasidus Chabad, and particularly to Chasidishkeit, was contagious, really contagious. I'll give a few short stories that indicate this. I don't even know if you call them stories. But he was once farbrengens. He was asked to come to Kiev to farbreng a Yutes Kislev. And there, the Rav was a Litvish person, a person of who followed the Litvak way. And he prayed the Amida, the Shmon Esrei, with tremendous devotion and passion. And he made with his hands and with his eyes and body movements. And Rabbi Zalman Moshe was sitting already waiting for him to finish so he can, get to the farbrengen. And he notices that. And all of a sudden, the Rav goes like, "Huh!" He wipes off his face because a herring hit him. And he had no idea what happened. After he finished the prayers, he asked, how did I get hit by a herring in the middle of the prayers? So they told him that it came from the guest farbrenger, Reb Zalman Moshe. So he went over to him and he says, Reb Zalman Moshe, did I offend you somehow? And Reb Zalman Moshe said to him, absolutely. He says, how did I offend you? I was praying to God. He says, but you made such motions and such commotion and such, you made a big deal about yourself by throwing your hands and looking up and looking down and crying and doing this and doing that in a way that was beyond the norm. And here it is Yutes Kislev tonight, which is we're celebrating the Balatanya, the Alter Rebbe's special day, which is Pnimius, inwardness, no outward manifestation of your own stuff. So I had to see this tonight, so I just couldn't take it anymore. I took a herring and I threw it at you. Now, guys, Chevra, this is a sharp story. It's not to be repeated, in a sense, to anyone, everyone. But I'm sharing it with you because there's a point here. Let's not get caught on the legalistic issue. How can Reb Zalman Moshe throw a herring on a Rav? There's no justification for that. Halachically, legalistically. But in spirit, where was he coming from? And this kind of represents this Chasid's fire. And that's why Reb Mendel Futterfass considered Reb Zalman Moshe his Mashpia, even though he wasn't the Mashpia in Kharkov, where Reb Mendel learned in the Tomchei Temimim Yeshiva. That's one thing. Another story that I heard from Rabbi Avram Mayor. Reb Zalman Moshe he was a Chasid of the Rebbe Rashab, but he was born, I believe, before the Rebbe Rashab became the Rebbe. Anyway, he was born during the time, I believe, of the Rebbe Marash, the fourth Rebbe, Rebbe Shmuel. Anyway, but he was a chassid of the Rashab. He wanted a chavrusa. He wanted a study partner in Chasidus. So the Rebbe Rashab suggested that he learn together with the Mashpia of the Lubavitch Yeshiva in Lubavitch of Tomchei Temimim, known as Groinem, Reb Groinem Esterman. Who better than that can you get as a chavrusa? The main Mashpia. So he starts learning with him, and he says he wants to learn Samach Vav, I think, because Rabbi Zalman Moshe, they say, knew word for word Samach Vav. He was a baki, an expert in Samach Vav. the discourses of the Rebbe Rashab from the year 1906, which by Chasidim it's known as Samach Vav, very famous continuum of discourses. Anyway, Reb Groenem says, I don't learn that. I learn Chasidus from the Rebbe Marash, the Tzemach Tzedek, the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe. When he heard that, he says, he went back to the Rebbe Rashab and he said, I'm not learning with him. So the Rashab says, why not? He says, Weil lernt nit ayer Chassidus. He doesn't study, he's not learning your Chassidus, the Rashab's Chassidus. Groenem himself was also from the Marash and maybe even the Tzemach Tzedek's time. And he didn't kind of consider the Rebbe Rashab his Rebbe. Lernt nit ayer Chassidus. And Rabbi Avram Mayor repeated to me, it was his father-in-law, Rabbi Zalman Moshe Hayitzchoki was Rabbi Avram Mayor's father-in-law. And he said, darf man nicht, darf man nicht, darf man nicht. Okay, I agree with you. The Rashab said to Rabbi Zalman Moshe, it's not necessary, it's not necessary, it's not necessary. In other words, you're right. You're right. If you feel that he is not connected to the Rebbe of the time, the Rashab, and that's why you don't want to learn with him, I understand you. This was the type of Jew who he was. And one last story that I heard from my Mashpia, Rabbi Yoel Kahn, is that when Reb Motel Debinsky, may be well and have a refuah shalema, was 9, 10, 11 years old, they were part of the Chasidim in Tel Aviv, and they were young boys in the yeshiva on Rehov Rav Kook, which I've also made clips about in Tel Aviv. And Reb Zalman Moshe lived nearby. So once Reb Zalman Moshe, after he davened, after he finished praying, and he prayed for many hours, and he thought Chasidus, he came over with a little shot glass, and he said, let's say L'chaim. He said, I'll say L'chaim with you, but I'll say twice. Once for myself and once for you. I think that's the version I heard. And he said, L'chaim. And he said to Muttel Dubinsky, he said, Muttel, so no, there ain't God, emes? There's only one God. Und God is the einzige Metzias. And God is the only thing, the only reality, the only existence. You agree? And Rabbi Yoel said, and this poor little boy, Muttel Dubinsky, didn't know, what's going on over here. Rabbi Yoel explained that this came after he davened and after he meditated and reflected on Hashem, on Ein Od Milvado. There's nothing else besides God. There's no other existence. He wanted that should be materialized in the physical world, so he happened to find this little bacher, this little student, this little boy, and he kind of used him as a sounding board for what he meditated upon just a short while before that. Again, this is the type of Jew we're talking about. Reb Mendel Futterfass told me the Seder Hayoim of this Reb Zalman Moshe. He said he would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He would learn, I think, Chassidus from 3 to 6. At 6, he would go to the mikveh. And then from 6:37, he would daven till 9 or 10. This is every day of the week. And then he would go. He would go to the shechita. He was a ritual slaughterer, or shochet, and he would do his job for 5-6 hours, eat something, and again daven mincha, ma'ariv, learn, and go to sleep. This, he told me, was his daily routine. So this Chasid, Reb Zalman Moshe Hayitzchoki, although not a formal Mashpia in a Chabad yeshiva, he was in a way the epitome of a Mashpia. And there's a beautiful picture, you can see it online, of Reb Mendel Futterfass sitting. He's buried in Tzfas, near the caver, near the the burial site of another famous Chasid of the Alter Rebbe, the Mittel Rebbe, the Bala Yisurim. Forget his first name now. Anyway, he's buried there, and there's a picture of Reb Mendel sitting on a stone nearby, like this, and you could see his entire love and feelings, how he has for his Mashpia. He considered his Mashpia, not Chacha Fagin, who Reb Chacha Fagin was his Mashpia in the Chabad-Lubavitcher Yeshiva in Kharkov, but his real Mashpia was this fiery Chasid, Zalman Moshe Hayitzchoki.